Now, the key to being a good investor is finding the right balance between risk and reward. Keeping this in mind, our upcoming speaker, Mr. Brent Collier, partner of FourOne Capital, will bring forth powerful investment and portfolio diversification strategies for all the investors in the house. Please put your hands together for Mr. Brent, who will share his knowledge on the subject, Holy Grail of Investments. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. Thank you, Money 2.0. Hold on, some more. Is this better? All right, better? Okay, good. Thank you for having me, Money 2.0. I'm really excited to be here. But I think it seems pretty ironic that we're here in Las Vegas, the world's adult playground, where we're here to talk and learn about money. But it makes sense when you start to think about and realize that the money you make, the harder you can play. So consider this experience as a preview of life that you could have. When I was asked to speak, I knew I wanted to talk about note investing. However, I didn't want to present a speech that was too financially technical, and I wanted to be relatable to everyone. So I want the whole entire audience to be able to understand and appreciate the talk. So I'd like to tell you a few stories about my relationship with wealth and why I believe I have found the holy grail of investments. When I was 5 years old, I lived in Florida with my mom and dad. We had a big house with lots of bedrooms and bathrooms. I had a large bedroom and 2 beds in my bedroom, which was weird because I was only a child. I remember going out to dinner at a nice restaurants, and my dad would order a whole lobster for me to eat all to myself. I loved the taste of lobster, and I enjoyed wearing the bib they gave you because when I got home, I pretended that I was Superman. Like most kids at my age at the time, I didn't have a care in the world, and life was about having fun. When I was 6 years old, my life turned upside down. My parents got divorced. My mother and I moved to North Carolina, where I stayed with my grandparents in their 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. I no longer had a bedroom to myself. Instead, I slept on the couch for the next few years until my mom was able to get back on her feet, and we moved out on our own. One day, my entire family, including my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, we all went to Red Lobster. And when the server came over and asked me for my order, I said, I want lobster. My cousins, the table shook with laughter, and my cousins made fun of me. My favorite uncle looked the other way, not to laugh in my face. And I was a little stunned and a little confused. Needless to say, that lobster never came. I had chicken fingers and maybe a couple fried shrimp. But from that day on, I didn't ask for lobster again unless I could pay for it myself. That experience had a significant impact on me. It sparked the beginning of my pursuit of wealth. I already knew my what and my why, and I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be like that little boy in the Richie Rich cartoon. I wanted to be like that kid in the Silver Spoons television show who could ride a train through his house. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? I wanted to have my own bedroom again. I wanted to be able to eat lobster when I wanted to, and after that incident in Red Lobster, I began to think of how. Because how is the big answer that we all need to be able to answer. Even as a kid, I realized how was the critical part of the journey. How is the action you take to achieve your ambitions and to realize your goals? It is how that leads you to the Holy Grail, and is the most elusive part of the journey. So I attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I learned that there was a really good business school there. At least I heard there was a really good business school there that a lot of students were graduating and going to Wall Street. After graduation, I too found myself on Wall Street on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with a specialist trading division at Goldman Sachs. A couple years later, I joined a smaller investment bank and a brokerage firm, Friedman Billings Ramsey, and I became an institutional equity salesman or stockbroker. For the next 10 years, I sold stock to Wall Street's top mutual funds and hedge funds and high net worth individuals. It was truly a great experience. I built a solid relationship with some of the wealthiest people and sharpest minds in the world. I also saw hundreds of millions of dollars traded every day off the recommendations of other research analysts from Wall Street who pick stocks for a living. However, I found it strange that these people who receive awards and bonuses for only being 51% right. It didn't make sense to me. I also didn't understand how an acceptable rate of return on investment was 8 to 10%. I knew no one could become wealthy with 8 to 10% returns. My hours as a stockbroker were also very long. I had dreamed of seeing the world. I wanted to see the Great Wall of China and visit the Great Pyramids of Egypt. I wanted to snorkel the Great Barrier Reefs in Australia. But more importantly, I wanted to spend more time with my family. But work was taking up all my time. I needed to find another how. I needed to find that Holy Grail. I had 2 billionaire clients who made their fortunes in real estate. One was Eddie Stern, the namesake of NYU Stern School of Business. He led a pet food and supply company, and he owned over 250 properties in New York and New Jersey. The second billionaire was Dean White. He built a billboard empire and sold advertisements across the country. During the tech boom and dot-com era, they wouldn't buy stocks from me. They said they didn't understand why they would buy stocks that were trading at 25 to 30 times earnings. They also both told me that real estate was consistent. It was easy to understand because the rules didn't change. That advice stuck with me, and I knew that one day I would make that transition into real estate. But before I made that transition to real estate, I had another great business idea. It was 2008, and the stock market had crashed. I lived in D.C., Washington, D.C., and it was a presidential election year. There was a fevered pitch in the air about a certain senator from Illinois who was going to become the Democratic candidate for president, and potentially our first black president. Of course, it was Barack Obama. It was predicted that Obama, if he won the election, that up to 4 million people would come to his inauguration from around the world. And that gave me a bright idea. I knew DC had fewer than 500,000 hotel rooms, so I wondered where all these people were going to stay who came in town for the inauguration. So my great idea was to create a website where people could advertise their homes for rent for short-term rentals. I bet this idea sounds familiar to you. Well, yes, it is. I was that guy. I came up with the business concept that Airbnb and who makes hundreds of millions of dollars around the world today. My company was called Inaugural Homes. The Associated Press ran the story. I was interviewed by all the local TV news networks. U.S. News and World Report wrote an article. People were calling me from all around the world, willing to spend thousands of dollars to find a place to stay. But there it is, a screenshot of the article. December 2nd, 2008, 9 steps to turning your home into a hotel. I know what you must be thinking. What happened? We did very well during the inauguration, but I didn't choose the right partners. 2 of my partners were willing to stretch the boundaries of the law that I wasn't willing to take. Ethics and integrity are very important to me, so I walked away. I learned a valuable lesson from that experience. Finally, I listened to the advice that I got when I was a stockbroker, and I became a full-time commercial real estate broker. My how had changed yet again. I joined a commercial real estate firm and sold retail properties like shopping centers and drugstores and 7-Elevens. It was a great experience. One day, another commercial broker called me up. His name was Matt. He was really excited about something he had learned. He knew my background on Wall Street, and he asked me if I was familiar with the mortgage note investing. I didn't know anything about it. He says it's like buying the paper, not the property. Banks sell mortgages, and we can buy them at a discount. Once we own the paper, we now become the bank. Wouldn't you want to be the bank that collects the mortgages payments that you pay every month? There are a lot of mortgages out there. The U.S. mortgage market is about $17.5 trillion. So there isn't a shortage of inventory. It's just a matter of if you're able to access it. Let's think about this for a second. The homeowner pays the taxes, they cut the grass, they fix the roof, they unclog the toilets. The only thing the bank does is collect the mortgage payments every month. If the homeowner doesn't pay, the bank or note holder gets the house. The key is to buy the note the right way. If the homeowner stops paying the mortgage, and the banks may even sell you that note at a discount to the unpaid balance. Let me walk you through an example. Say you have a house that's worth $200,000 in today's market. We know it because the market comps of all similar houses in that neighborhood also sold for $200,000. Let's say the homeowner bought the house 10 years ago for $150,000. He had a 30-year fixed rate mortgage with 6% interest rate. So he has 20 years remaining on that note term, and the unpaid balance is $100,000. Let's say life happens. COVID hit, or during Christmas, they were hanging Christmas lights and he fell off the roof. But anyway, the homeowner now becomes delinquent. This note is now labeled by the bank as non-performing, and many are willing to sell that note. And if the bank is willing to sell the note, some are willing to sell them as few as 50 cents on the dollar. But let's say in this example, the bank sells it for 60% of the unpaid balance. FourOne Capital or other note investors will buy that note for $60,000. That's a win. A new note owner will now become the bank, and they have several exit strategies to choose from. Let's say if the homeowner decides to sell the house and you own the note, well, the face value of the unpaid balance again was $100,000. In this scenario, the note holder would have made $40,000. Let's say we have to foreclose. We have few options that we can pursue with the property. We can sell it at market value, which is $200,000, and realize a profit of $140,000. That is a 233% return on investment. We could become a landlord and rent the property out to a renter or a tenant. But our primary goal at our company is to try to keep homeowners in their homes. What if they just happen to come on hard times like COVID and they need a little help? And at the time of their mortgage, they couldn't afford the $2,500 mortgage payment, but they could afford $1,750. Because such is the case, in this particular scenario, since I bought the note at such a drastic discount, the math still works. Now, we also can create a brand new note with a new 30-year term with visibility of payments going forward. And after a few payments, we have more options. We can now sell this note as a performing note to another investor, say 90% of the unpaid balance. So in this example, that would be $90,000, which is equal to a $30,000 profit or a 50% return. Not long after my conversation with Matt, he and I and two other partners started FourOne Capital. We are a private equity firm specializing in the acquisition of performing and non-performing notes in both residential and the commercial mortgage note space. We provide investors with an alternative to the public markets by allowing them to invest in deals that we pursue. Now, not all deals that we pursue are home runs, but we have never lost a dollar. We target 25 to 30% returns and focus on non-judicial states where foreclosures are a lot easier. All four of our partners have strong character. Our businesses are based on integrity and ethics. Our primary goal, again, is to help homeowners stay in their homes. But if foreclosure is inevitable, we know we still have a good deal because we bought the deal right, because we stick to our strict disciplines and we check all the boxes of our investment criteria. Once you own a note and it remains performing, you now have a passive income stream to make money. You can now make money while you're sleeping. We never betray our financial models, and we stay away from the booby traps that we don't chase bad deals. This past Thanksgiving, I had the great pleasure of taking my family to Disney World for a week. There were 10 of us. We were able to fly first class all the way from Washington, D.C. to Orlando. During this trip to Disney, we went to Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios. In Hollywood Studios, we went to an attraction where they had a stunt show featuring Indiana Jones. My kids were like, Indiana who? I was like, boy, I'm getting old. But I explained to them that Indiana Jones was determined to reach his goals, even willing to put his own life at risk. He successfully navigated around booby traps, even those others before him had failed. He never quit, he always focused, and worked until he achieved his goal, which was usually trying to find a rare artifact that he wanted to return to a museum. For one of his quests, he searched for the Holy Grail. And yes, this is how I decided on the title of my speech. Throughout my life experiences of working on Wall Street, having a billion-dollar idea and walking away from it, then going into real estate, I finally came to what I know is the Holy Grail. I am confident that I will one day leave a legacy of wealth for my children and grandchildren, and they will also have the ability to eat lobster as often as they want. My how is now clear, and I know that we at FourOne Capital have discovered the Holy Grail. Our how can be your how. We look forward to talking to you about it, so please stop at the booth and ask as many questions you like. I really appreciate your time, and I'd like to hold the questions for you to meet me and my partner at their booth, so please come and see us and talk to us. And I wish you all happy holidays and a safe and a prosperous new year. Thank you so much for your time.